this example will clarify what's applicable if you have home or LIHTC. So if you have several units, you can have up to 80% of those get to use higher rent limits, which I think you would like if you're wanting to maximize your rental income. And that is defined as, again, these are based on 30% times these amounts. So it's 65% of AMI or the Section 8 published FMR, fair market rent. And then those 20% or more units, their limit is 30% times something based on 50% of AMI or high home. And so here's the example. We've got our 60% and our 50% AMI. If FMR is down here, then both of them, that's the lower of the two, and that's how you would get your low, also high home, because they're both defaulting to FMR. FMR is meant to be a ceiling of something that you couldn't charge more than if you have these home rents. Now, if FMR is up here, that would make our high able to use FMR and our low gravitating or going to the 50% of AMI. If FMR is up here, then for high, the lesser of those two would be the 65% of AMI. That's what it would be based on. And so if you now combine that with low-income units, then the high, and supposedly the low, but if we're at a 40 at 60, then the low hangs out at 50 anyway. But for those units that are both, it would be or the LIHTC limit if those units are home and LIHTC, like the previous slide had mentioned, those three categories that Jillian had shared with us. And so then it would be down here if you have both of those. Now, this concept was introduced to me. Jillian's experience has been that people are not so lackadaisical as I was told, which is great. But if you're always thinking based on this, well, 60% is always going to be less than the 65% AMI. And so you could be led into thinking, well, here's our warning. If you have LIHTC units and home units, beware of being lulled into thinking, well, we always stick with our LIHTC rent limit for high home rent units. Thinking, all right, well, 60 is always less than 65, so we have two, always go with LIHTC. One reason is because your LIHTC could be using the Harris special limit, and that's something that was certain areas across the country are able to benefit, and it gives you a higher rent limit than what's normally published. In that case, if you're deferring to the LIHTC unit, you're out of compliance for your high home rent units. You should be going down here because that's the lower of the two. And then, of course, your FMR is the other reason. If you're down here, you would use neither the LIHTC nor the 65% of AMI. You'd use the FMR because that's the lower of the three. Hopefully that example works. We need to get to our Section 8 example here. Looks like